Occult Confessions is brought to you commercial-free through the generous support of our patrons. Visit occultconfessions.com and click on Donate to help keep the history of the occult on the digital airwaves. Margery Kempe wept and wept and wept. She cried so much and so loudly that she became one of the most annoying women in her hometown of Lynn, as well as neighboring Lincoln and Norwich, not to mention Jerusalem, Rome, and Santiago de Compostela, where she made pilgrimages. She was regarded as a madwoman, a heretic, a faker, and a lollard. She was also called a deeply pious and religious woman. She was examined by priests, bishops, and archbishops, and threatened with burning at the stake. Friars denounced her from the pulpit. Anchorites alternately encouraged and rejected her. She idolized Saint Bridget. She met Saint Julian of Norwich, and she wrote, with the aid of at least one priest, what is probably the very first autobiography in the English language. Today on Occult Confessions, we lend an ear to the weeping and confessing of medieval mystic Margery Kempe. My name is Dr. Rob C. Thompson. We are bringing back a voice that you will find familiar, but it has been a little while. It is our resident Catholic at long last in the midst of these medieval mystics, Riley Claxton Hernandez. Riley.
I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, what's up? How have you been?
I had another baby. I've realized that for every time you've had me on, I've had to have another baby. Is that a requirement?
If it was, we would have quite the crew of children for this podcast. We wouldn't even need an audience anymore, really.
You're making me earn my resident Catholic title.
Yes. Yeah, maybe it's the Catholic
to birth another human
thing.
every time
Everyone
in order to
needs
come back
to
for an
do,
episode.
yeah, something that's typical of their title. And for you, it's having more children. You're going to find today, friends, that Riley is very much perfect for this topic in so many ways, although Riley could have certainly done any of our medieval mystics.
We the members of the secret order of alchemical actors do solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it.
Margery's narrative begins when she is about 20 years old and married to a worshipful burgess of Lynn. What's a burgess? You know what a burgess is? Feels important.
Some kind of nobility, but I don't recognize
like a middle-class dude, yeah.
Middle-class,
she's a middle-class person. She had 14 children, but this particular childbirth, do you know where we're at? You knew more about Margery when you came in than I thought. So do you know how many children she had?
14.
I know, but
where we are in this...
When she's 20 years old, she hasn't had 14 children.
No,
so
she's her first.
She has her
when
first.
Everything happens, it's her first.
It's her very first child. So this was a difficult childbirth, and it was painful, and she despaired of her life, believing she might not live. She began to do penance and to fast, and went to her confessor to tell all of her sins. But before she could reveal the biggest sin, which is mysterious in her narrative, she doesn't say what this sin is, her confessor cut her off. Maybe premarital sex, could be, I don't know.
I thought it was like heresy. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read about this. Heresy. It was something heretical. I thought she's writing something. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's
She's obsessed with sex, though. I mean, her own sexuality,
yes.
and she feels very badly for it.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll get to talk about that. But she couldn't confess whatever this was, some kind of heresy.
I don't know what I'm remembering.
She believed
it's further along.
Jesus had 2 moms or something. Her confessor cut her off, started to scold her and recommend a course of penance. So she's like, and then I did this, and then I did that. And he's like, oh, that's terrible. You need to start saying Hail Marys. She's like, wait, I have more. No, it's time for Hail Marys. Her confessor cut her off, started to scold her, and recommend a course of penance, and so her soul remained troubled. She fell into fits. She bit her own hand and tore the skin of her body near her heart with her nails so that she had to be restrained and tied up day and night.
In the basement, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think she says where, but...
I thought she was tied up in the basement.
That's creepier if she's tied up in the basement. Then, in the darkest throes of... Do they have basements? I guess they...
For sure.
Like for your fruits and vegetables, your canning and what have you.
Yeah, I think she was like down in the cellar.
You're jarring.
Again, it's been a while. I have not refreshed, but that's what
When did you study Margery? Just someday you were just like, oh, I'm going to Margery rabbit hole.
I could also recommend a book, actually, if
other than her own book?
Mentor of mine who I really, really admire. Shannon Evans. She wrote a book called The Mystics Would Like a Word about 6.
And Margery was one of them.
Yes, Catholic mystics. It's a really, really great book. She's a Catholic, but you're kind of Catholic.
Oh.
Like probably even more than I am.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll have
I
to check
recommend
it out.
But she's in there too.
Anyway, she's tearing her heart apart, and maybe down in the basement. So this is probably postpartum depression.
Yes.
We would probably diagnose.
Psychosis, even.
Jesus Christ then appeared to her in the form of a man clad in purple, and he sat on her bedside, which was in the basement, I assume. They brought a mattress down there for her.
Maybe I just pictured her in the basement.
Okay.
But
Maybe she went down, she went up, they moved her around. The chains could be unlocked. He asked Margery, "Daughter, why have you forsaken me, and I never forsook you?" And then ascended slowly into the air and disappeared. Margery regained her reason, but did not give up on her pride or her vanity. I assume since you think this was her first child, she also now subsequently has enough sex to produce 13 children. Yeah. But in the midst of all this, she's obsessed with the opinions of others and the quality and appearance of her clothes. She gets caught up in worldly pursuits. This is interesting to me. I'm always fascinated by the medieval world. We imagine that a woman has a domestic role, but Margery actually attempts several jobs.
Yes.
To run businesses.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess her husband supports this because it brings money into the house to pay for all these kids.
And all of her clothes. I remember a quote of hers where she would get really jealous when women dressed just as well as her.
Yes.
Not better than her,
yes.
but just as well. Like she didn't want anyone even looking close to her. Like, yeah, they all needed to be lesser than.
She's not an aristocrat, so it's hard for her to support this habit. So this is some of the middle-class jobs she got up to. Probably her husband gave her some cash, right, and let her go off and start a business. She ran a brewery, but the froth kept going flat, regardless of how knowledgeable her servants were, and all of the ale was lost. So she turned to running a horse mill to grind corn, but then on the eve of Corpus Christi, neither of her horses consented to pull the wheel, and the driver gave up his job, and no one would work for Margery after this. Rumor spread that she was accursed. So one night, as she lay in bed with her husband, she heard a melodious sound, so sweet and delectable that she thought she had been in paradise, and she repented that she had ever sinned, because things sounded so merry up in heaven, which she guessed she was hearing, right? She began to talk to anyone who would listen about the bliss of heaven, and she lost all interest in having sexual intercourse with her husband, which she had apparently enjoyed abundantly before this point, according to her own account. Also kind of interesting because, the feminist line is that women didn't get to enjoy sex until, like 100 years ago. But here's Margery, really looking forward to sex. This is not me reading between the lines here. Margery's quite explicit about this. When her husband wished to have sex, she agreed, but with much weeping and sorrowing. And we haven't really started weeping yet, friends. For she knew that they had displeased God by their inordinate love and the great delight that each of them had in using the other's body. She began going to confession 2 or 3 times a day. She got herself... Right, Riley? That's normal, isn't it? A good Catholic. At least twice a day. No. You don't have the priest on speed dial. She got herself... Do we still have speed dial? She got herself a cloth of hair used to dry malt and made a hair shirt to wear under her clothes. So any of this sounding okay to you? None of this sounds okay from conversations we've had. Like the fact that she's sad about having enjoyed her husband's body doesn't sound very good.
Not at all.
But she's really sad about this. She's convinced she's had way too much sex and liked it too much.
Intense scrupulosity.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Here. Oh, I love that word.
Yes.
Scrupulosity.
It's a very Catholic word.
I love it. Then began her 3 years of temptation. An unnamed man, now we're going to really sin, for real. An unnamed man, who Margery was attracted to, told her on St. Margaret's Eve, practically St. Margery's Eve, before evensong of all times, that he would very much like to have sex with her. After evensong, Margery went to him and said, "Okay, you can have your will with me and do as you please." But sometime during the song, he changed his mind. Or else, I think more likely from a psychological standpoint, the fact that she said yes, threw him off completely, right? He lost his nerve. He put forward such a pretense, said Margery, that she could not understand his intent, and they parted company. But Margery would not be dissuaded. She's nothing if not a stubborn woman. She tried again to give herself to this man, and this time he said he would not have sex with her for all the wealth in the world. I assume probably Margery's laying out a miracle here, right? Mm-hmm. Here she is throwing herself at a man who wanted to have sex with her, and Christ has turned him from his intent because she's destined to be a saint. I mean, this is a kind of predestination, though, really, if we think it through, right? God's literally stepping in to keep you from sinning because he wants you to be his special person. She tried to get, am I right? Am I so far so good?
Yes. I mean, yes.
We don't imagine God literally stopping you from doing the bad thing.
No.
It's up to you.
That's against the point.
Yeah. Here God's like, nope, not that guy. She tried again. Oh, sorry, we did this. Then it's Friday before Christmas. We're in St. John's Chapel in St. Margaret's Church. Boy, you guys like to name stuff. You still do that? You still have like saints inside of saints inside of saints? Isn't it enough to name the church? No, you're like, well, haven't honored.
Look at my children.
Yes,
that's what we do.
But if you have St. John's Chapel and St. Margaret's Church, it's sort of like you name your child after a saint, then you name their underwear after a different saint, right?
I mean, you kind of do. You can do multiple.
So many saints.
The bigger churches for sure. So like your church down the street isn't,
just one
definitely
saint.
not. But you go to the National Shrine Basilica in D.C. where that has, 25 chapels inside of it. They're all different.
The rectory has its own saint.
They're all named after different people.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, I do know of one though but it's a historic rectory, so that's probably why. Like, it's
highly
an old
unusual
rectory.
to name the rectory after a saint. The priest is trying to sleep. So, where were we? We're in the chapel. Margery's visited by Jesus, who ravished her spirit and spoke to her. He granted her contrition and told her to call him her love, because he was her love and would be her love without end. He said he would exchange the hair shirt on her back for a hair shirt in her heart, and that she should leave off eating meat and saying so many prayers. She would take up a fast every Friday. He closed by advising her to visit her confessor, who would affirm for her that she had heard from God and not from the devil. I love this. This is a common thing in the medieval period. When you have a mystical vision.
Just so you know.
Go check. Oh, still today. You guys are worried about the devil talking to you? Do you have mystical visions very often?
So you would say maybe go talk to a priest just to confirm. If you were to have one.
If Christ spoke to you, you wouldn't just be like, okay, good.
No, you'd probably go talk to somebody about it.
You'd be like, hey, was that Christ?
Yeah.
Just in case.
Or do I need to go seek some help? Or maybe it's less the devil nowadays and more like, do you need to go see a psychologist?
Okay.
Like, do you need to,
right.
I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, this checked out. The confessor was good. She was fine. Mm-hmm. I want to just quick note, because the prayer thing is kind of the weird one, right? Not eating meat, that's a pretty common sacrifice. But the prayers, why not so many prayers?
I know, that is so funny. It's almost like, listen, I love you a lot. I do love you.
We're talking a little too much. Christ/God, the Father, are very interested in Margery being quiet and listening rather than talking. So that's where we're going with that. She gave herself over to meditation, according to Christ's command, here we are, and was visited by her first elaborate vision, or at least the first she described in her narrative. Christ instructed her in her first quietude to think on his mother. Margery saw St. Anne first. For those of you non-Catholics, this is the mother of Mary, who is the mother of Jesus. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
My middle name. That's my patron saint. All the naming. The
mother of mothers.
Anne, yep.
She was great with child, St. Anne, and she watched the childhood of Mary. These visions, when I say elaborate, I mean elaborate. They cross like vast stretches of time. So she watches the childhood of Mary. She hears Anne tell Mary that she would be the mother of God. Anne knew this. Come on now. Sorry, that stretches me a bit there, Riley. Too many miraculous people involved here. Then she saw Elizabeth, mother of John. That's got to be some apocryphal stuff, right? We don't know John's mother's name.
Yeah, we do.
How do we know this?
It's in the Bible.
You're kidding me. They name his mother?
When Mary is pregnant, in the gospel, Mary is pregnant. She goes and visits Elizabeth.
Don't give me that Christmas madness.
But that's Elizabeth, and the baby in her womb leaps when Mary approaches her at the sight of Mary.
This is not
and that
in
is
Mark.
John the Baptist. John the Baptist is Jesus' cousin.
But that's not in Mark.
Huh?
If it's not in Mark, I don't believe it. And then,
but John is Jesus' cousin. We do know that.
Yeah, okay,
through
yes.
we know that John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. Elizabeth is his mother. Through tradition, not even just...
Saint Lizzie, we're hanging out with Liz. And this is all in the vision. Riley and I have distracted you. This is all in the vision. The mother of John the Baptist, and Elizabeth tells Mary, Mary brings Elizabeth some wine and some honey, and we watch the birth of John, who Mary takes up from the ground with all reverence and gives to his mother.
And Mary was there for John's birth.
But this is extra biblical, all these details.
Yeah, we do know that she was there.
Right. Bridget, is going to give us all these details of the nativity that are not in the Bible.
A lot of saints do that.
It's the point of the mystics, right?
Yes.
What's the point if you can't see all the details? The full Christmas story unfolds before her, by the way, in this meditation. Margery asks her Lord for mercy, and we're not going to get into that. She asks her Lord, we'll be here all day, for mercy and preservation from everlasting hell. That's how we close this vision. Mary becomes a kind of model for the spirituality that Margery next pursues. She wants to become a mother in the model of Mary, an archetypal mother, full of love and compassion, but without any of the sexual intercourse generally required for conceiving and birthing. You can see why she loves Mary. She feels really bad about sex. She really wants to be the mother, the great religious mother. I don't know how she feels about mothering, honestly, but we'll get there.
I mean, that's the thing, though. We'll get there.
Christ. Yeah, save that thought. I promise. We're going to open that up. Christ promised to slay her husband's sexual desire and thereby free her from her carnal engagements with him. On the Wednesday of Easter week, when her husband approached her, she said, "Jesus, help me," and he did not touch her then or ever again. Margery asked her husband if they could cease having sex, and he said they could if she would eat and drink with him on Friday. Weird kink. Margery refused to break her Friday fast, but then Christ said she should, because the only reason he'd asked her to stop eating meat was in anticipation of making this deal with her husband. Clever. Christ is very fortune-telly, I think, in Margery's narrative. He sees the future quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Pulls things together for her. Then a 3-pound stone and a 6-pound beam fell off a church and hit her on the back. Fell off a vault, I should say. Margery interpreted this as a miracle, since she survived and recovered from her injuries, but this is Catholic Europe, medieval Europe. Others interpreted this as a sign of God's wrath. Could go both ways, could it not? Mm-hmm. Didn't kill her, but boy, God doesn't seem thrilled when he tosses the rock at her, does he? This was perhaps the first major event in which the general public, among whom Margery lived, divided in their opinion over her life. Some people are saying miracle, some people are saying curse. Certainly, Margery was taken to fairly intense self-mythologization, self-dramatization, and just plain old normal dramatization, seeing most events in cosmic terms and perhaps exaggerating the extent to which she attracted controversy. So we only really know from her, and we'll talk about why that is, but there's no independent witnesses for the most part to Margery's life. And she really does love, she clearly has an agenda in her story.
And a lot of the medieval mystics, there was open inquisition, investigation. We have all these different witnesses, all of these different witness accounts because of that, and we don't have that for her.
Not for her. She disappeared. Yeah. Which is kind of strange, but we'll get into it. So someone thought the beam was a miracle. Someone thought it was God's punishment. Perhaps several someones thought each of these things. There's really no way to know how many people thought what or what it meant to anybody or if anybody even cared. She had a personal encounter with a monk who openly doubted her that she was talking to Christ. He said that if she really spoke to God, then she could give him an account of his sins. God should know this. Margery begged him not to ask this of her, but he insisted, and she told him that he was guilty of lechery, guilty of despair, and guilty of keeping worldly goods. Sounds like a good medieval priest, doesn't he?
Yeah.
When prompted, she clarified that his lechery was not with single women, but with married ones. This priest was like, "You don't know me." And she was like, "It's married women." And he's like, "Oh, wow." He was convinced. Very impressed. Gave her a great dinner. Gave her some gold, which is good because he's spending away some of those worldly goods that he really shouldn't have. And then he asked her to pray for him. When Margery next returned to the monastery, she found this monk had given up his sinful ways and been promoted to the rank of sub-prior. Thanks, Margery. Margery strikes. First strike for Margery. Super Margery. The first tale of her weeping to excess comes from Canterbury. She's wept, but not to excess.
No.
However, she's in Canterbury amongst the monks in the church, and she irked the crap out of them for all the weeping she got up to. And the monks reproved her for it. A quarrel ensued, and she told the monks a story of a man who had badly sinned against God, and so his confessor told him that he had to hire a man to scold him for his sins all the year long. Then this man went amongst some men who despised him, and they scorned him, and the man smiled and laughed. And the other men asked, "Why are you laughing?" And he said, "I've been taking silver from my pocket to pay men to chide me for remission of my sins. Today I can save my silver." Her point being that she welcomed their chiding of her because it was good for her soul. Go ahead, Canterbury monks. Come and get me. She thanked these monks for their scorn, and they called her a heretic and a lollard. Now, this is the second time I've used this word. I'm not an expert on lollardry. But they're basically like Puritans version 1.0. They were proto-Puritans, the lollards. They believed Christ never laughed, for example. And one of the most famous lollards in the theater history in my area is a man who wrote a tract accusing the Queen of England. It's called the Histriomastics. You had to read this, Riley, for class. I don't know if you remember, but accusing her of being, a terrible sinner because she engaged in court theatrics. And that didn't go well for him. He went to jail.
Yeah.
Not a pretty jail, I'm sure. Maybe a basement. So those are the lollards. Not a good time. And they were burned a lot. So the Catholic Europe did not put up with lollardry. Catholic England did not put up with it. Burned the crap out of them. So it's no small thing to be called a lollard. And she was several times. Because she's just running around crying all the time. But she was not a lollard in any way. A couple of young men who believed she was neither heretic nor lollard escorted her to where her husband was, and so ended this particular episode. She fantasized about what it would be like to die for God's love. Fearing the pain of death, she imagined her own head lopped off by an axe. She didn't want to imagine it any other way. Mm-hmm. None of those gross, painful deaths. Christ next commanded her to take 3 pilgrimages, to Rome, to Jerusalem, and to Santiago de Compostela. Christ promised to lead her there and bring her back in safety, and commanded that she should wear white clothes. Now, this was destined... When do we wear white, Riley?
At a wedding.
At our wedding, because we are theoretically...
pure.
Yes.
Yeah.
You knew it. It's like, you're like, is this a trick question? Yes. No, we generally aren't. That's true. But this is the idea. It's supposed to be a sign of your virginity. Now, my woman has 14 children. So this was going to cause some controversy. White clothes were reserved for virgins, and Margery had 14 children. She was also traveling with her husband. But Christ said that he loved wives as well as maidens, especially those who would live chaste lives like Margery, if you just give up sex. And she had. Her journey took her to Norwich, where she met with Dame Julian, now Saint Julian, and the White Friar William Southfield. She told Julian of the conversations she had with Christ, hoping that Julian might ferret out any deception in them, but Julian found no deception and encouraged her not to doubt her feelings as long as they did not go against the worship of God or the prophet of her fellow Christians. I love that advice. It's very Julian-y advice. Mm-hmm. Riley and I did a Julian episode in the pandemic.
I was not in that episode.
Oh, you weren't in that, really?
You invited me to be in that episode.
But you were not feeling well.
I was pregnant.
You were very pregnant.
Early pregnant and so sick. I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, here's your chance to weigh in on Julian.
I love Julian. I love Julian.
All will be well. All manner of thing will be well. Yeah, that's Julian. Mm-hmm. An Anchorite, right, in Norwich.
Yeah.
Who taught that, sin was just turning away from God. All you had to do was look behind you.
Yes.
And you were good. God was always there.
Yes. And the divine feminine. That's one of my favorite parts of Julian is God as mother. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love all of her writings on that. And that they can be both. He's both at the same time. And that also, like, women have a specific view into God that men do not have, or mothers specifically because of that, being co-creators with God It's essentially the wording she used.
Yeah. And she's a saint now. You said that was 2012.
Yes, I believe it's 2012. It was Benedict, but like right before he left.
It's his last thing. On his way out the door. Margery continued on to her pilgrimage, and the Lord prophesied. He loves to do this with her. That while abroad, her maidservant, very specific prophecies too. Not like revelation style stuff, although the revelation is kind of specific as well. When you get into it, the whore will have 8 breasts. So, was it 8? Anyway, the Lord prophesied that while abroad, her maidservant would turn against her. But he promised that a hunchbacked man, right? Would escort, so specific, would escort her wherever she wanted to go. Not, my child, the bad things will happen, but don't worry, help will come. These very specific. On the road to Jerusalem, her fellow pilgrims became extremely annoyed with her because of how often she wept and cried and how she constantly spoke of the goodness of her Lord, not only in religious settings, but also just while they were eating lunch. They wanted to talk about something else, any other thing.
Yeah.
We love God and all, Margery. They took her maidservant from her, saying that if they did not take her maidservant, then Margery would only prostitute her for money. And then the man who was holding her money gave her a few coins and left with the other pilgrims who absconded in the night. Just left her.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite.
It's horrible. I mean, it's ridiculous. But she's this poor, she's a medieval woman. Like, she can't just, it's not like a girl in Europe now. Like,
but it just points to how annoying she was.
Yeah, that's how annoying she was.
And this wasn't just like a one-time thing.
They left her several times.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert. Then a pilgrim who didn't dislike her as much as the others came back to get her. He felt bad. Like, she could die out there. And then they continued on together. They came across the Pope's legate. Is that how you say it? The Pope's legate?
I don't know.
Legate? Probably legate. It's terrible. It's an ugly
I don't know
word.
what this is.
It's like the Pope's representative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And asked if he might command her to eat meat and stop weeping so much. Everyone wants her to eat meat. She's an annoying vegetarian. Always talking about the lives of the cows and the pigs and how sad they are on the farm. But the legate would not, and took Margery's side. And so they left her with him and carried on.
Great.
All right, then she's your problem. And this time they took her maidservant for real. But a worthy man, not a hunchback, came forward to escort Margery. Now that she found herself a woman alone and far from home without companions, his name was William Weaver. She met up with her party again in Bologna, and they agreed to let her travel with them once more if she would make merry with them at mealtimes. For 6 weeks, Margery ate alone, because she wouldn't make merry with them. So she was like, nah, I'll just eat by myself. She's such a character. If I can't weep and talk about God, I'm eating alone. She's a kind of like Cartman figure, right? Mm-hmm. Screw you guys, I'm going home. They arrived in Jerusalem with Margery riding an ass in the style of Jesus. German pilgrims rushed to help her stay in the saddle because she nearly fell off, overcome by the emotional experience of entering the city. I love this. Now we hear a little bit about pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. Friars led the pilgrims about, carrying crosses in front of them. So the friars would be your tour guides in Jerusalem. This is so cool. And they would, I don't know why they carried crosses, but I'm imagining when you go to sites in Europe, they have the flags.
Here,
yeah, this your tour group.
Some kind of a thing.
They would have different colored crosses or something. Yeah. Jesus was in different positions. I don't know. I hope not. And explained the biblical stories associated with each site. So you would go to the one site and the friar would be like, okay, this is what happened in the Bible here. And then you would go to the next one.
It's still a thing.
Yeah, but is it friars?
Yeah, priests
with
and friars.
Crosses?
I don't know if they're holding crosses, but often people that I know that go on pilgrimages,
flags.
You want a priest with you so you can have mass every day, you can have the sacraments and things like that. So,
only if you're Catholic.
Yes, Catholic pilgrimages. Yeah, okay. Yes.
I got you. You want to do this?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will.
I'll be excited to hear.
I will.
Yeah, you have to come back. Yeah. If it was like Margery's time.
Get a donkey. I like picturing that. She did that on purpose. Like,
but almost fell out of the saddle.
We can't go in yet. I need to find the donkey.
Oh, yes.
That was...
She needed her own personal... At the Mount of Calvary, she cried so loudly that it astonished any people. That is, people who had not already heard it before. Other people were like, it's just what she does. And the pilgrims in Jerusalem regarded her in much the same way as the people in England. Quoting her here, some said it was a wicked spirit tormented her, some said it was an illness, some said she had drunk too much wine, some cursed her, some wished she was in the harbor, some wished she was on the sea, in a bottomless boat. On her way home, the most annoying woman in Europe, on her way home, her companions abandoned her again, as Riley foretold, in Venice this time, and Christ spoke to her and said she should not be afraid, for he would provide for her. And then she saw a poor man. What was wrong with this man, Riley?
Oh, I don't know.
You have to guess. Come on. What could be wrong with him? What did Christ predict?
Hunchback.
Yes, it is the hunchback. A great hump on his back. He's an Irishman. His name is Richard. Richard the Hunchback. What are the odds? This is before, right? The Richard III. Spoke her language, said he would guide her on to Rome. So her pilgrimage is to many locations. She starts in Jerusalem, but she doesn't go home. She goes to Rome next.
She's gone for 5 years.
Yeah, they met up with some women and some friars, bearing a chest containing the image of Christ that they would take out and dress up in shirts and kiss it as though it were God himself. This isn't Margery. This is some lady she met on the road. What an odd thing. I mean, delightful and odd. Margery approved of their faith, for she said they saw in the image with their outward eye, so the thing that they're bringing around with them, what she saw with her inward eye. So the Christ that she's always talking to and seeing in her visions is, she says, that's just the same. If you want to carry your crucifix around and for some reason dress it up and stuff, okay.
The dressing it up is the only odd thing for me. The rest of it is pretty...
The kissing and stuff.
Standard,
That's all good. As if it were God himself. This is very anti-Cloud of Unknowing, but we'll get to that in a minute. She was taken in at the Hospital of St. Thomas of Canterbury in Rome, but an Englishman there recognized her and spoke out so badly against her that she was promptly kicked out again. She became acquainted with a German priest who spoke no English. She'd been struck by the way he spoke and sent her hunchback friend to make a connection, but when she conversed with the priest in English, he didn't understand a word she said. For 13 days, the German priest prayed to God to be able to understand Margery. I assume Margery told him to do this. Probably through the hunchback.
Yeah, how?
I must have spoken German. Really a useful guy. And then on the 13th day, with both speaking different languages, they somehow understood each other, and she was able to come to him as a confessor in Rome. Later, there were these priests and stuff in Rome who doubted that this was true, and she demonstrated to them that she could do this at, like, dinner. I think the story goes, I didn't put the story in here, but it was something like she was like just having regular conversation with him, and the German priest was sort of like nodding. He had no idea what was going on. But then when she spoke to him directly and confessed her sins, he was like, yes, and he knew exactly what she was saying. Yeah, word for word. He ordered her as a means of penance to serve an old woman, which she did for 6 weeks. He also told her to stop wearing white, change that for black. She also did this. So her confessors she listens to, regardless of what Christ says. Mm-hmm. Sometimes she'll, like, check in with Christ, but insofar as you're saying, Riley, you have to, like, confirm it isn't the devil. She'll generally go back, and if the confessor's like, nah, not that thing, but you can do that thing. So she wore white until this confessor said, yeah, you're done with that now. Okay, now we're talking to God the Father. We've been talking to Christ. Mm-hmm. But now she's going to have an experience with God the Father. Told Margery that he would have her wedded to his Godhead. But Margery did not answer because her relationship had been to the Son up to that point, and she was afraid of the Father. Christ asked the Father to excuse her, for she was young and inexperienced, and God took her for a wedded wife. I'm not sure how she was aware that this conversation took place. Maybe, Jesus came back and was like, hey, I talked to Dad. For she was humble and meek in doing what God commanded. I mean, I guess, Riley, you can dispute that if you'd like, but... But for the drawing of vast amounts of attention to herself.
Wishful thinking.
She was humble and meek. She saw herself that way. She saw many white things flying all around her, and came to understand that these were angels, and felt the fire of love burning away her sins, just as love quenches all sins. God said that for her hair shirt and all her love and prayers, she did not please him as much as, quoting here, when you are in silence and allow me to speak in your soul. He said, you shall have more merit in heaven for 1 year of thinking in your mind than for 100 years of praying with your mouth. Insofar as Margery is often regarded as a kind of opposite of the medieval via negativa typified by the cloud of unknowing, which you listened to, I think, Riley, this is an interesting departure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Margery tended to focus on the manhood of Christ. What does that mean to you, that phrase, the manhood of Christ? Christ as human.
As human.
Yeah.
Yes.
So blood and his physicality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She liked that.
Yes.
That made her feel good. We'll go into the various dimensions of that, but this is to say the physical image often unfolded into elaborate visions, oral revelations, like everything's very sensual for Margery.
Yes.
In contrast, to remind everyone, the cloud taught that God was beyond all physical things that could be known on this earth, to the point that even looking upward didn't make any sense from the cloud of unknowing standpoint, because God is not up. God is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Here, Margery's mysticism, though, aligned with the cloud in privileging silence and meditation over ritual and action. But in contrast with the Neoplatonists, this did not preclude Margery from having a distinctly sensual experience of God. Here's where it's going to get a little rated R, friends. According to Margery's telling, God said to her, this is Margery, quoting God. Don't y'all blame me. I'm sorry. I just need to... It's going to get even like a little intense for me. If I were on earth, as bodily as I was before I died on the cross, I would not be ashamed of you as many other people are, for I would take you by the hand amongst the people, so that they would certainly know that I loved you dearly, for it is appropriate for a wife to be on intimate terms with her husband. Therefore, I must be intimate with you and lie in your bed with you. Daughter, you greatly desire to see me, and you may, boldly, when you are in bed, take me to you as your wedded husband, as your dear darling, as your sweet son. That's a whole lot to process. In case, I'm sorry, I'm just going to pause 1 second. I'm not done. I'm just going to let you take a moment for that. Wedded husband, dear darling, and sweet son. For, said Margery's God, I want to be loved as a son should be loved by the mother, and I want you to love me, daughter, as a good wife ought to love her husband. Therefore, you can boldly take me in the arms of your soul and kiss my mouth, my head, and my feet as sweetly as you want. Now, I'm going to process this in a moment, Riley, but would you like to start before I try it? I'm going to say good things about this. I'm not opposed to it.
So that's the thing. Like, I don't know how to, because I'm not totally either. I know how shocking that sounds, and
does it make you uneasy at all?
The way yes, like she took it too far. I feel like that's the only way to describe it.
Which parts?
The physical, like the physicality of it, like in my, like the, that's
the sexual experience.
Yes, but the sensualities. I mean, you look at a lot of our female saints, the mystics. Sure. It's very. I would say that they had a healthy integration of their sexuality and their spirituality, and those things go together. And
I would agree.
Particularly in Catholic tradition, the manhood of Christ is important. The physical, not only do we have spiritual union with God, we have physical union with God. We believe we have a Eucharistic faith. The Catholics believe that God puts himself into a piece of bread fully so that he could have full physical union with us. That we actually have a full physical union with God. It's very spousal, and that's kind of that's a word that people use to describe Catholic intimacy with Christ. I think that we use the word intimacy with Christ a lot, rather than I think you would hear in like Protestant churches, like, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
But in Catholicism, it's very much intimacy. There's almost a step more than that.
Sensual component to it.
There is.
What about this mother-son, mother-lover stuff? That's
so again,
I got nothing to say about that.
I feel like my thing's the wording. So again, I mean, here's another part of it is like we view God as Father, but also as the spouse of our souls. Right. That's
in which aspect? So, but she's viewing herself as the mother of God, and
that's a little bizarre. That I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
As the partner
it's
of
a
God.
Stretch. Like not mother of God, but
I think she identifies closely with Mary. Right?
Yes, I think that's more it.
And the God in
I
her
can kind of
mind.
get there. Like again, I don't know. As a mother, she shares that kinship. I don't know. It's a stretch. It's
about, I think, for her, having compassion for Christ's suffering as Mary did.
Yes. And I mean, when she was at Calvary, she had a lot of weeping. She had a lot of weeping. At Calvary at the site. I mean, like, she fell to her knees. I think it was one of her grandest weeping moments. I don't know. At least from what I remember reading about that.
The primary is that mother, that identification.
Yes, I would
with
agree
Mary.
with that. You're right.
And then she introduces, but that's with Christ, and then God the Father introduces the possibility for her of a sensual relationship.
Yes. And maybe that's, again, we talk about why she isn't a saint. She does lack a certain tact. I think of Teresa of Avila, Catherine of Siena, these women who did have these very sensual relationships. I mean, a very famous image of Teresa of Avila. Have you seen the Ecstasy of Teresa of Avila?
Tell me.
Okay, it's a painting of her, and she called it rapturous love, and she would be in ecstasy in meditation, and she would levitate.
Really?
But this picture of her, a lot of levitating. She and John of the Cross. But
I love it.
She's my favorite. We'll get to that later.
Right.
But
maybe
the image of her it's called the ecstasy of, and her, I mean, she looks like mid-orgasm. Like, that's the painting.
Well, there's a lot of the female saints are
like,
it's like their head, right? And they're all.
Yes. I mean, it's ecstasy.
Margery's pictured similarly.
Catherine of Siena also had a mystical marriage with Christ when she was like 20 or 21. And some of the recordings, and I think were that he gave her a wedding ring made of his foreskin.
Wow.
That's
cool.
That's the tale. There's different
gentlemen.
Some stories
up
it's
your
bejeweled. Some it's a bejeweled ring. Some it's made of his foreskin. To her, it was always that she could see it, but it was invisible to others until her death.
Boy, new spin on circumcision for real there.
But none of them talked about him like that. You know, there was this rapturous love. I mean, Teresa of Avila, there's some quotes that you're like, whoa, like he came in me and pressed in me until I was full of, like, there is very sensual writing, but it's not like,
we don't blend the
it's not like
role.
Jesus like speaking sweet love to me like this. Like he's like that's,
hey baby.
Yeah, like that's what this is. It's not that. That's not the way that they're yeah.
Well, as we're suggesting, there's a lot to mull over here. We're heading for Bernard, by the way, Riley, just to warn you. A whole lot to mull over. Scholars have sometimes regarded medieval sexual experiences, as Riley's talking about with Teresa and Catherine, as a manifestation of sublimated sexuality or mental illness. Medieval Christian mysticism of this kind was not unique to Margery. Consider, for example, I'm going to go to a man here because I want to deal with this like hysterical woman problem, right? So it's not just women. Bernard of Clairvaux.
Yep.
Doctor of the church, am I right?
Yep.
A difficult saint, but a 12th century saint nevertheless, spoke extensively on the Song of Songs. Probably more or less like originated this whole thing. Let's listen in a little bit on what Bernard has to say. This is the sermon on the kisses of his mouth. And hence the bride, when seeking him whom her heart loves, asks rather for a kiss. That is, she calls upon the Holy Spirit by whom she is simultaneously awarded with the choice repast of knowledge and the seasoning of grace. How true it is that the knowledge imparted in the kiss is lovingly received, since the kiss is love's own token. But knowledge which leads to self-importance, since it is devoid of love, cannot be the fruit of the kiss. Even those who have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge, may not for any reason lay claim to that kiss, for the favor of the kiss bears with it a twofold gift, the light of knowledge and the fervor of devotion. He is in truth the spirit of wisdom and insight, who, like the bee, carrying its burden of wax and honey, is fully equipped with the power both of kindling the light of knowledge and infusing the delicious nurture of grace. So therefore, I know I'm doing that with my voice, but it's there in the language. So therefore, let the bride about to receive the twofold grace of this most holy kiss set her two lips in readiness, her reason for the gift of insight, her will for that of wisdom, so that overflowing with joy in the fullness of this kiss, she may be privileged to hear the words, "Your lips are moist with grace, for God has blessed you forever." We don't expect to hear moist in a sermon very often, do we? I mean, Bernard's theological point is well taken here. But there is, as you're saying, Riley, there's the knowledge, the intellectual, which Bernard is sort of like separating off. But the experience of God's grace, God's presence is a little more than a little sexy here.
Yes.
For the believer. Not for, God and his church and all these, I know, the things the Catholics try to do to the Song of Songs. It's about God and his church. That's not about God and his church. It's about you.
Yes.
Your personal sensual experience. Bernard is regarded as difficult saint today. I said difficult saint. I love the phrase difficult saint. Do you know other difficult saints? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I mean, yeah.
Name some difficult saints.
Gosh.
You want to think about it while I talk about why he's difficult?
Yeah, go ahead.
He supported the Second Crusade, which was an utter disaster. He aggressively persecuted heretics, including the Cathars, who were quasi-Gnostic, and their dualism obviously went against Bernard's sensuality. And sometimes his theology could loop back on itself in paradox. I don't know enough details about these things to go into them. I mean, the Second Crusade, obviously. His take on the Song of Songs, however, is still pretty well accepted, yes?
Yeah, yes.
And captured an approach to the divine that echoed through Margery Kempe's mysticism. So here we have a man saying, it's okay. Be sensual. Do you have any difficult saints before I keep going?
I mean, all of them. I don't. So I mean, okay, everyone
Not
to
Saint
an extent.
Joan.
Everyone to an extent. Yeah. She killed people. Like there's the pacifist in me a little bit is like.
I hear that.
We
could make the case that she didn't actually personally kill them.
Yeah, she probably did. She was literally herself was stabbed. So I feel like if she was
guess.
Anyway,
she must have stabbed back.
I mean, Catherine of Siena, again, bringing it back to her, was a fiery, and I do love her, but was also kind of responsible for a crusade a little bit.
Even Mother Teresa was kind of a hard ass, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I heard this about her.
Like what?
Like she was just tough on the other nuns and stuff.
Very, very tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that worked with her because she's very modern. I worked with the Missionaries of Charity in Baltimore in high school and worked with people that worked under her. She was really hard. But I could get off. That's going to be off topic.
You're going to let her off the hook for being a hard ass.
Catherine of Siena, a little responsible for a crusade, was super heavily political. She did restore the papacy back to Rome.
Julian just stayed locked up in that church.
She did. Well,
that's pretty good.
And I will say that's what I love about my church is there is someone for everybody. Like there's somebody for everybody. They're all so widely different. We're all imperfect. There's not going to be a perfect saint. If any saint, you're going to find something you don't agree with, a time they messed up, a time they were, whatever.
They're people.
They're people. But some a lot more so than others. But particularly in this time of history too. And I would say the violence would be a big part of it. The Crusades, just those areas of church history.
If Bernard had supported the first one, like one that went well, maybe we'd feel differently.
Maybe.
His sermon on the bride and bridegroom in the Song of Songs paints a fairly elaborate metaphor in which the bride takes on a variety of meanings, including Christ and the church, and the bridegroom is God the Father and the Holy Spirit. It's hard to keep up. His language is distinctly sensual and sexual after Solomon, the legendary author of the song. Let's not forget, as Riley and I have debated, the Song of Solomon is pretty sexy. And in the Bible.
Sorry, just like in Catholic school though, like whenever you got that as one of your readings, it was always like a
ooh.
Everyone would sit like real quietly. You know what I mean? Like it was
ooh.
There's just a lot of talk of breasts.
Yes, there's a lot
of descriptive words.
And keys and locks and stuff.
Lots of things. And oil.
Oh yeah, the oil's just dripping everywhere. The fox who spoils the grapes. So, spiritualizing sex, let me agree with Riley, in this way, could be a feature of medieval theology and mysticism rather than a sign of an undiagnosed sexual disorder. Pascal Beverly Randolph, Ida Craddock, Victoria Woodhull, even Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, all modern or postmodern occultists, regarded sex as not inherently sinful, but an act that could be elevated as a form of spiritual communion. Margery has the most in common with Ida Craddock. Go ahead and have a look at that episode. in that Idocratic believed that her lover was a spirit, and Margery believes her lover is, God, with sexual feeling being elevated to the spiritual realm. Bernard's bees, flowers, moist lips. This is all very erotic. And so part of the point is that spirituality has an erotic dimension. So far, so good?
Yep.
Bernard and Margery, however, would not have been inclined to reverse the equation and conceptualize physical sex as potentially spiritual experience, insofar as both of them privileged celibacy, Margery really to a fault. But it's difficult, in my mind, to justify the difference when all dogma is set aside. If spirituality has a sexual dimension, I have to ask Margery, why doesn't sexuality have a spiritual dimension? I know you just agree with me on this, but I don't know if you have any answer to this. It's just a queer... I think it does come back to celibacy and the privileging of celibacy in the priesthood. There becomes this feeling that celibacy must be better, therefore I must apologize for my sex.
And also of the time. I mean, it's also not just that. I mean, the culture itself.
Yes. I mean, the priesthood is not...
Dictated by, obviously. I understand it, dictated by... the religious,
the priesthood's very different.
Very different. And you wouldn't really hear much of this wording today. I don't know. I feel like it's also definitely of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, for sure, celibacy being privileged at that time. There are there's a lot of stories like this among the saints of, I would say the first couple to ever be canonized together.
That's a weird situation. Okay, go on.
Yeah,
Who are they?
Ended up Zélie and Louise Martin.
Okay.
They were French, 19th century.
Of course they were.
Their daughter is Saint Therese of Lisieux. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a doctor of the church. So they have a daughter who's a saint as well, who's one of my favorites. Yes, but they were canonized together. Had 5 children. Uh-huh. And then entered into what's called a Josephite marriage, where they did not have sex.
Like Margery and her husband.
Yes.
Sure.
And again, the first canonized couple, and we have one other canonized. Are they canonized yet? There's other couples that are on the path to sainthood, but they were the first to be canonized together. It does say something that the first couple to be canonized and as a holy, and did their duty and had their children and then stopped having sex. Like, there is something to be said about that.
This, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bridget, right? We'll get to Bridget. Her narrative begins, okay, what are we talking about? All this having been said, I'm saying Margery's not mentally ill, and I want to be very cautious about this. I don't think I can rule this out entirely. While there was a legitimate religious function to her sexualized mysticism, it is difficult not to psychologize her a little bit.
Yes.
Her narrative begins with trauma wrought by childbirth and quickly moves to Margery giving up sex entirely. She skips over the 14 children in between. By her own account, she does mention that she had 14 children, but she talks not at all
about them.
Yeah. She never, yes, we'll get there, yeah. By her own account, she enjoyed sex immensely and became wife and mother to Christ. But she gradually gave up being a wife to her human husband and made almost no mention, as we're saying, of her children in her autobiography, despite there being 14 of them. They must have had some role to play in her life. It is difficult to ignore the possibility that Margery had been traumatized by postpartum depression and sought to maintain the joys of sex and motherhood while distancing herself from the human experience of conception and child rearing. That's a theory I've got here. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what kind of mother Margery was because she said nothing about it. While life was certainly harder in the medieval period, I want to really note here, medieval mothers did not love their children any less. Yes. They fretted over them, particularly given the infant mortality rate, and treasured the children who survived. Margery's idolization of Mary and visions of Anne, Mary, and Elizabeth as mothers all suggested the value she placed on motherhood while hardly considering that she was a mother to human children, not just a woman emulating the mother of God. She wants to be a nun so badly.
That's where I'm that's where I'm getting at. Again, like, why isn't she a saint? There's another aspect of this use the word vocation, Catholicism. If you're married, your vocation is as a married person and as a parent if you have children. And that is that is the way that God has called you to serve and love him. That's the idea. If you're a religious, if you're a priest, if you're a consecrated person, the church and God is your spouse, and there is no other spouse. The idea is that you're serving him directly like that. There's different ways. And she's got those mixed up. It'd be how the church would view that, right? That she has forsaken her vocation.
She's trying to do both.
Yes, she has forsaken her vocation. She's left her children for years and years and years, and her husband, it seems like, and is attempting to like live another life, kind of. Mm-hmm. So that the church would have issue with that.
Not unusual for the time period, especially for widows, but yeah.
Well, and okay, we'll also get to the other point where I'm like, there's plenty of men that did this, and we didn't have much of a problem with it. Like, there's plenty of men that left their families, and we say, well, that's holy. That's them taking up their, right? Like, they're following Jesus. Like,
we don't say that on the Call Confessions.
No, that's how some of it's phrased, that there's plenty of men that did that, and we don't, wonder where their children are.
That's true.
That up and go to the Holy Land.
I would if we were talking about such a guy.
But we do, obviously, with Margery. I mean, and for good reason. She had an infant, and she up and left for 5 years.
It's madness.
Mentally sane, right? Like
I
mentally
think she
healthy
was sane.
women.
Yes.
But mentally healthy women, I don't think do that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Somebody who's fully mentally healthy doesn't do that. I don't think so.
What I'm suggesting is she was of right mind and body. She willfully chose this path for herself.
Yes, she did.
And I think was driven by guilt, right, in these various things.
Yeah.
Anyway, Christ told Margery to go to her confessor and to ask leave to wear white clothes. Again, we go back and forth on the white clothes and the meat and all the time. She did. He consented, so she wore them ever afterwards. In Rome, she intersected several times. Here we go. It's time for St. Bridget. Not Bridget personally, Bridget of Sweden, my Swedish listeners, your patron saint. Since Bridget was dead. She was dead, but her maidservant was still alive. However, she spoke no English, and so Margery did not understand her, but of course troubled her for some time, babbling at her in English. Mm-hmm. Margery also went to the place where Bridget died and heard a German priest deliver a sermon there. Bridget of Sweden was a near contemporary of Margery's. Like Margery, she was a deeply devout woman who traveled to Rome. Also like Margery, she was a mother. She had 8 children, 6 of whom survived infancy. Also like Margery, she had extensive visions of the life of Christ, most famously the Christmas story, his nativity. Unlike Margery, Bridget was canonized. Also unlike Margery, she was born wealthy. I will note, again, that she was a widow. Her husband died, so Margery's husband was alive for most of what we've talked about so far. She's like kicking around, being very patient. The daughter of one of Sweden's wealthiest landowners was Bridget. Margery was very middle class. She's trying to brew beer to make money to pay for her clothes. Bridget joined the Third Order of St. Francis, devoting her life to prayer and the care of the poor and the sick after her husband died. She went to Rome to obtain permission from the Pope to establish her own religious order, but was forced to wait because the Pope was in France. He was in Avignon, where the papacy had been located.
And Catherine of Siena went to Avignon and brought him back to Rome.
Right.
That's another story.
And Bridget was back in Rome, right?
Yes.
Praying for this and agitating, really, not just praying. Mm-hmm. Bridget was very political. Mm-hmm. She agitated to bring the papacy back, as we're saying, and by many accounts, agitated people more broadly. But her order, supported by the high-reaching connections that she had, was established. It's also true that the Queen of Scandinavia herself advocated for Bridget's canonization, and Pope Boniface IX, not the 8th, but the 9th, elevated her to sainthood in 1391. For those of you keeping track, that's 20 years after her death.
It's very fast.
Super fast.
Everyone knows. I mean, we've had quicker now. We just have it. We have a saint that just was canonized a month ago, and he died in 2008.
Oh, that's real quick.
He was 15 too. He's the first Gen. He's Gen Z.
First Gen Z. You guys were just
Gen Z
you wanted
saint.
To get the clicks on Instagram is all you wanted.
I know.
All my love to that saint. Who is he?
Carlo Acutis. Italian.
What did he do?
He was kind of a normal kid. That's the night. I mean, that's. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, he was very devout. He didn't come from a really practicing family, but really fell in love with the Eucharist, especially. Mm-hmm. And then this is, the beginning of the internet. He created a website cataloging all of the different Eucharistic miracles around the world. There's a lot. They're fascinating. Even if you're not Catholic, they're very interesting. A lot of the Eucharist turning into flesh and blood in people's hands.
So he's like an archivist.
There's a lot of that. So he created a website cataloging all of these different Eucharistic miracles.
He's canonized for creating a website.
He was very. I mean, there's
he died tragically.
People that did less. He got leukemia at 15.
Oh, that's terrible.
But there's a lot more to just, I mean, there's a lot of people that did less, like that sat in cells for years.
Sure,
I mean, that's the idea, is that there's...
It had elaborate visions.
Yeah.
Arguably the most important difference
and
between...
did two miracles after his death. That's the important thing, is you have to have that.
We wouldn't know if Margery did that.
So after your death. So in order to become a canonized saint,
Someone
you have to have
you.
2 verified miracles that after your death. Yes.
Someone prays to you.
And it's very hard to do, because for one, you have to
because you're dead.
To verify. Well, no, it's very hard to verify.
Oh.
For one, you have to prove that you have to prove that you asked that person to intercede for you, right? You have to prove that, and then also you have to prove. I mean, it's a long investigation process. You have to prove that there's no earthly or scientific explanation. It's typically a miraculous healing.
You just put it all on TikTok. I think you'd be fine, right? There it is.
Just document the whole thing.
See my profile.
But so that is also, there's plenty of saints sitting in the, that are a servant of God or venerable. Those are different steps up that haven't had any verified miracles. So they're sitting in the middle of that process.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to have 2 verified miracles.
Well, Margery's clearly performed many in her lifetime.
But not
by her
after
own
her death. Or is nobody asking her?
We would have no way to... We'll talk about why.
I'm also like, is nobody invoking Margery Kempe?
They don't want to hear all that weeping.
Nobody's praying to Margery Kempe.
I think of an important difference is also Bridget is just much richer. Her social class, her riches.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, they're very similar.
So that is a criticism of Carlo Acutis.
Oh, he's rich.
It costs money to start a cause for canonization. It costs money,
sure.
right? Investigations cost money.
Rich people got behind this.
And so if you're able to donate money to that cause, that moves things along quickly. Sure. Now, it has brought up a lot of discussion around this of,
should we be feeding
this process
the
and how
here?
Are we doing this and the same reason that there aren't a lot of moms that are saints. Or there are not a lot of lay people that are saints, because a big part of opening a cause for canonization is having a kind of a following already, is people bringing up your name. And if there's nobody bringing up your name and you don't have a reputation, that's not happening as much. You're getting lost. So there is a lot of discussion exactly about redoing that process and how are we doing that, redoing that process. But so Carlo Acutis, he came from a wealthy Italian family.
I love guys like slipping the cardinal $50 and be like, just mention him at the water cooler. When you see the Holy Father, you just say... But I was thinking the other day.
An investigation costs a lot of money.
I'm sure, yeah.
So if you're able to move that along,
Interesting.
And he came from a very wealthy family.
This is why we have you over, Riley, to tell these stories. On her way to Santiago, she stopped in Leicester, where the mayor, she's in England now, had her jailed, and the steward spoke foul words to her and threatened her. He said, "You shall tell me whether you get this talk from God or from the devil, or else you shall go to prison." And Margery said she was content to go to prison for her Lord's sake, and so he delivered her back to jail. The abbot of Leicester interrogated her on the articles of faith. Now, this happened multiple times, every time Margery passed. She was perfectly orthodox in her opinions, and the abbot frustrated the mayor's attempt to prosecute her. So the mayor said, "I believe you have come here to lure away our wives from us and lead them off with you." Not an uncommon thing. Like you could come into town and bring your thing. And requested a letter from the Bishop of Lincoln before he would let her go peaceably. And so Margery went to Lincoln and had the letter sent on to the mayor. He gave her back her staff, and a piece of Moses' rod was in her staff, by the way. Just your average souvenir. And her bag, you let her go safely. For 8 years, she suffered a mysterious illness that was in her back and her neck and in her right side, and she could not eat when the sickness was on her. It would visit her weekly for durations ranging from 2 hours to 30, and then after 8 years, it passed, and she was well again. But she cried so loudly in church that the priest had to give her communion privately in the Friars' chapel at Lynn. For 10 years, she wept this way, crying for 5 to 6 hours every Good Friday. What a way to ruin a holiday. She met another difficulty when her Lord attempted to reveal to her a vision of the damned in hell. I love this story. Margery would not believe that God would show her such things and decided that these visions were from an evil spirit out to deceive her. And so she was visited with horrible visions of men's genitals and religious men's genitals, and was taunted that she must prostitute herself to them all. Prayer and meditation only brought the visions, more into her mind, and she prayed to God to take away her pain, and God said she would suffer this for 12 days for disbelieving him, and then the visions would pass. And they did. All because she wouldn't believe in hell. Or, I don't know, she didn't believe God was showing her hell, is really what it was. There was then a great fire in Lynn, which burned down the Guildhall of the Trinity. Not the Guildhall of the Trinity. but it might have burned down the parish church, and perhaps even the whole town. Many people in Lynn could not stand her weeping and crying, but when the town was on fire, I love this, they were like, weep away, cry as much as you want. They hoped the Lord would work a miracle through her, and she cried out to God, good Lord, make everything all right and send down some rain or a storm that may through your mercy quench this fire and ease my heart. And a snowstorm came and put out the flames. She has some miracles in here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
they don't matter, though, unfortunately.
They don't count. The town was saved, but afterwards, some in the town forgot very quickly this miracle and complained again that she cried too much, saying that Mary never cried. Or rather, that Mary didn't cry as much as Margery did. Yeah, right. I'm sure Mary cried, but not to this extent. A parson who was also a scholar came to speak to them, preaching in the morning and the afternoon, and he said, friends, be quiet and do not complain about this woman, for each of you may sin mortally in her, but she is not the cause. She is but rather your own judgment is the cause. Do not judge, right? If Margery asked the Lord to take her public crying from her and let her cry in private, Christ said that he wanted to make people afraid of the grace he put into her and inspire more compassion in them as Mary had for her son. He said that the great pain she felt in her heart that caused her to cry would precipitate less pain in her dying and her afterlife. So there's a little bit of an exchange there. I like the first part, then it got a little too selfish at the end there. Then her husband, now more than 60 years old, took ill. We're almost to the end here. Which was another occasion for Margery's neighbors to slander her. He fell down the stairs, and his neighbors came in and found him with his head twisted under his body. He was all covered in blood. They sent for Margery because they did not live together. They used to live together. This is so ridiculous. They lived together for a little bit of time after they took their vow of chastity, but all the people in Lynn said that they're breaking their vow because they lived together, so they separated. So the neighbors blamed her for him falling because she didn't live with him. She can't win. If he died, they said she deserved to be hanged for his death, for not looking after him properly. And so she prayed that her husband might live a year, another miracle, so that she would not be hanged for his death. Kind of selfish. And the Lord answered her prayer, and he did live. He lived on for several years, and Margery looked after him in his diminished state, as he no longer had all of his faculties, and he would often soil himself, and she thought about all the delectable thoughts she'd had for this physical body, and decided that it was just that she should be punished in this way by this same body for her lust. It's just a dark view at the end there. It's a dark view. She loved sex a lot, and then it just gets very dark. Mm-hmm. Yikes. While she was praying in the Church of St. Margaret, a man came and knelt behind her to pray. This is my last Margery story before we finish her off. Came behind her to pray, and she could see he was in great distress. She asked him what was wrong, and he told her that his wife was unwell. She doesn't know me or her neighbors, he said. She roars and cries so loudly that she scares folks badly. They manacled her wrists to keep her from hitting and biting. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? His wife had only just had a baby, and he was worried he would never get her back from this madness. Margery offered to go with him and see the woman. And when she came into the room, the woman seemed to regain her reason. The woman said, I behold many fair angels round about you. Therefore don't leave me. She was taken to a room at the furthest end of town and bound hand and foot. This woman didn't even get to stay home. And Margery went to her once or twice a day and wept and prayed for her until God promised it would be well soon enough. And Margery went on weeping and praying until one day the woman recovered her wits and her mind and was brought to the church to be purified at last. In the medieval church, I don't know if you guys do this anymore, but after childbirth you need to be purified.
No.
It's for the best. But she couldn't be purified until after she had stopped ranting and screaming.
Yeah.
So, patron saint of postpartum depression, I said to Riley when she came in, we don't have one of those in the Catholic Church.
We don't have many mother saints.
Well, Margery is such a good candidate, right? Come on, she's right on the money here.
Yes, I would agree. And I do like her. And I've gained, but there's definitely a lot of issues there as to why
we've talked about them.
Yes,
right?
we've gone through a lot of them as to why. And again, I don't know if we said it on here, but we only have her word. That's a big part of that. You're not going to find. I can't think of any saint in which we only have their word. We have. That's part of the process. You have to have other people. Now, important thing though, is that a saint is anybody that's in heaven. That's what we agree. And as Catholics, you can believe, we have the freedom to believe in salvation of all souls, which means you can believe that hell is empty. My personal belief. So that would mean that everybody that has ever died is a saint. Mm-hmm. A canonized saint is different. A canonized saint is somebody that the church says we can
pray to them.
No, you can pray to anybody.
Oh,
but we absolutely 100% know for certain they're in heaven. Through the life they lived and through the miracles that they performed after their death.
I think I could go that far with Margery, except that, yes, we don't know about the historical accuracy of her book.
But that's the thing, though, is that you can pray to anybody. Like, you can talk to anybody who's dead. That's the way that we get canonized saints, though, right?
You're like psychic mediums in that way.
So you can, and that's how we get canonized saints, is by praying to people who are not yet canonized saints, right? We wouldn't get one, because it's by invoking the people that we know that have gone before us, that have lived holy lives. There's 4 steps through. So there's servant of God, there's venerable, there's blessed, and then there's your saint. So there's people in all of those steps that we pray to often.
They're just not guaranteed to be in heaven.
Yes, you can pray to Margery Kempe. You can pray to anybody, your granddad. You can pray to whoever you want to. And we believe that that's what's special. I love coming on and talking about saints. And because it's more than, for a Catholic, it's more than just talking about a historical figure or even like a beloved author or something like that. It's like they're friends. These are people who I believe are intimately involved in my life, who I consider a friend, who I talk to, who I believe help me, who I believe support me and my family. And, that's really special. I talk about St. Teresa of Avila, who I consider her a friend. Like I talk to her. I have felt her in so many different times of my life, who she has supported me. Anyway, so that's really special. But you can pray to any of them. That's how we get saints.
It's a beautiful thing. You were a lot like a spiritualist, really. I call on the spirits of the dead and have these kinds of relationships.
All the time. I name my children after them, and it's more than just naming my child after somebody. It's I'm picking a patron for them. This is somebody who I believe will pray for, especially for my child, and will help my child throughout their life. Today is John Paul's feast day. It's St. John Paul's feast day, and so we celebrate his feast day. But
going home for a feast.
No, it's cupcakes.
That's a feast for my children.
Yes, exactly. That's the point. But I pick somebody who, and we believe that. John Paul calls him his heaven friend. That's the idea, is that this is somebody who, he is your cheerleader. He's cheering you on. He is praying for you. You can go to him for help. And his job is to bring you closer to God. That's their job.
That's nice.
Not closer to themselves. That's the key, right? We're not worshiping them. That's the point.
Margery might fall short on that a bit, but I think we could start the Margery Kempe postpartum depression thing.
I think we could. There's a lot of people agree with you.
That she's an appropriate patron.
Yeah, well, I think it's important because we're talking back and forth. Is she mentally ill? Is she not? Is it from God, or is she mentally ill? And why can't it be a little bit of both?
I think that's fine.
And a lot of the saints and a lot of the look at the prophets in the Bible. They were whack. They were crazy. Like Ezekiel physically ate a scroll, and had insane visions.
And whatever that
Isaiah
Jonah
walked
whale
around
thing,
naked for
3
years. These were insane, and we had no problem. We had no problem accepting them as valid, right? We were very nonchalantly accept them as valid. And so
sure, a whale coughed you up. Sure, absolutely.
And a lot of saints, and why can't it be both? And often, I think it is the deep feelers, the hypersensitive, that do have these experiences with God. And on a much lesser scale, I think most of us who are spiritual, in the dark times of life and times of suffering, that's when I have felt, I think, the closest to the divine.
Sure.
That's when I feel him closest. And so it kind of the tracks for me. That's somebody who struggles, brought up Mother Teresa, suffered with deep depression. Her dark night of the soul, her writings, she calls it the dark night of the soul. She had deep, deep chronic depression her entire life. And I don't, but the writings that came out of it were real beautiful. But good art is often born out of pain.
Sure.
I don't know.
Fitzgerald was not a happy
humanity.
man.
I don't know. That's kind of the human experience a little bit.
Sure.
And why can't
Hemingway,
it be
not
both
a happy
of those
man.
things? I don't know. Why can't it be both?
Let's talk about historiography on the way out the door. Margery dictated her book, probably the first autobiography in English, if her tale was true, because it's likely Margery couldn't read. Her story was told of priests reading the Bible to her and other books. 2 priests aided her in recording her story for posterity, so it seems like she couldn't read, but she dictated this. The book was lost and forgotten for centuries, with only trace remnants surfacing here and there until the only known surviving copy was found in the private library of the Butler Bowden family and passed to the medievalist Hope Emily Allen, a scholar of the mystic Richard Rolle. Although she had caused quite a stir in her lifetime, without the connections and influence of someone like Bridget of Sweden, her story was lost to obscurity. I believe that she, if not being a celebrity at the time period, like there were people up and down Europe who knew the name Margery Kempe.
She was in Venice in a hospital and was like, the guy was like, that woman. Like, I mean, that's crazy in that time period for some of that to be recognized.
She's pretty famous. Yeah. Her story, though, as after her lifetime was lost, and her case for sainthood is, as we're saying, more or less a non-starter. After all, most of what we know of her, we know from the woman herself. And since her narrative was recorded in the third person, referring to herself as this creature, some readers have wondered if the whole tale was made up. She was, according to her life story, a gifted teller of tales. That doesn't help her case. And she was taken to a fairly self-mythologizing viewpoint and was able to cause snowstorms. She was able to heal mental illness. Like, she's clearly, how do we know? She was also the willing victim of public scorn and charges of heresy and all manner of indignities. Public shame only seemed to enhance her sense of purpose, but also her sense of her own importance in perhaps the most perfect example of a martyr complex since the Roman persecutions.
So there's that too. We don't love
martyr complexes.
Yeah, I would say the line is like, we don't go out seeking suffering, but we accept the suffering that's, brought upon us, that's given to us.
It's one thing if Stephen's getting stoned. It's another thing if he's like, hit me harder.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah.
Still, there is no denying that Margery was a woman of remarkable faith, whose ability to draw attention did little to keep her from the dustbin until fairly recently. So obscure did Margery become that we have no information on when or how she died. I'm just going to close with one last thought from Margery herself on her death, which I think is quite beautiful. She said to her Lord, "Though I were in hell, if I might weep there and mourn for your love as I do here, hell would not annoy me. I had rather be there as long as you wished and please you, than be in this world and displease you. Therefore, Lord, as you will, so may it be." There's a woman in the medieval period who's overcome the fear of hell. That's something to be applauded, albeit with a taste of that martyr complex in the midst. But nevertheless, go ahead, Jesus. Put me wherever you want. If I can love you, I'm good. That's Margery Kempe. I mean, I'll put you on the spot. You've said a lot of things. If you have any more things to add, Riley, this is your moment.
I think we kind of covered it all.
Yeah, you did good. You had a whole thing right before I did that historiography. Yeah. She's a fascinating woman.
Fascinating.
Really unusual artifact. Either. The document's an unusual artifact. I think it does cue us into medieval life in fascinating ways. That medieval women are going around like starting businesses and friars are carrying, all around the Jerusalem.
I can't believe she wasn't killed.
On all these travels.
I can't believe, or burned at the stake.
Annoying women.
I can't believe she wasn't charged. Truly, there's many women that were for way less.
She nearly was. Her account states pretty clearly that it's like 3 or 4 times she goes before a bishop and then an archbishop. And every single time they quiz her on the articles of faith. And every single time she passes the test with flying colors. Not a single thing she believes is in contrast to the orthodox opinions of the church.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you have Bernard of Clairvaux kicking around. So, like, the weirdest things she had to say here are being said by a doctor of the church.
Yes.
So,
but by a man. I mean, that makes a big difference in this time.
But it's, I understand, So she's in a riskier position. But if she can look at the men and be like, oh, the men are saying it.
Yes.
Oh, well, the men say it, then it's fine.
Yes. It's so fascinating.
That's it. We're done with Margery. We're not done with medieval Christendom just yet, but we are going to Japan, friends, I promise. I'm going to do Richard Rolle next, who is a close companion to Margery Kempe, not in life, but in theology. I really want to do the Via Negativa and then its contrast, and Margery Kempe's a wonderful example of a sensual Christ rather than an absent, not so much absent God, but a God beyond feeling and understanding. So Richard Rolle's going to give us the other side of that.
Oh, have you studied Teresa of Avila? Have you ever read anything of her?
Why don't you come do an episode, man? Do you have time to do an episode?
Yes. For sure.
You're raising 3 children.
No, but I do this. This is what I do anyway. This is my free. This is after kid. Like, this is already what I do.
Write me an episode. Okay. Let's do it. I'm here.
Done.
All right. I'm doing Richard. Riley's going to come back. Our next season is, you don't have to rush because our next season is going to be a rewind. I'm going to revisit all topics that we've been talking about. So this would be perfect. We have interviews about Mormonism and things. So we're going to, here on Occult Confessions.